I must have been 10 or 11 then. I remember waking up to mornings colored by blood stains outside my home. Thick red spots lining those narrow streets that went between matchbox-sized homes. Those streets crisscrossing around and between families. Some broken, some struggling to stay afloat. Streets where goons may have passed in the uniformly black chaos of the night, fleeing from their rivals or chasing them. We never knew which was true. After all, voices shrieking, footsteps stumbling in the middle of last night could only tell you so much. And there was only so much sound the blood dripping from their blood-stained bodies would make. Now that I think back of it, being blind is not always as bad as it sounds. Then in the mornings we would walk to school, tiptoeing around those red trails that looked like fun, except that these ran longer and would take more time to get washed away. Yes, even in the Mumbai rains, they would take much more time to get washed away. No one talked about the blood we had seen, as if it would stop existing if we did not mention it. Then in the classroom, we learned about Shivaji and Edison and Gavaskar, their stories inspiring us to rise above the morass that stood beyond the school walls. And there was this bit about Houdini. And as I grew up, I wondered if I had understood the subtext of his escape stories, their relevance to our lives. Then one day, while I rushed to fill in exam sheets in the classroom, I glanced out through the classroom window and saw there were a few policemen gathered on the field which was actually reserved for football. I saw those policemen standing around what looked like a river of, again, guess what color? Red, flowing out of a man. I was to learn later that the river had sucked the life out of him. Those who saw him in his dying moments thought he was reaching out to grasp the last shred of breath that was rushing out. Some had frozen, paralyzed by the sight of grass being smeared with the color of blood. Again, no one talked about this, as if their silence would have made the crime not happen. But even then, some stories got stuck in my head, even though we all tried bloody hard to ignore them. The cops, we were told, had snipped off the Achilles tendons. So these are the Achilles tendons. They had snipped off the Achilles tendons of a thug whom they wanted to keep in check. Now, if your Achilles tendons are clipped, severed, you can walk, but you can't run. So how much fear would a limping mobster instill in someone, in anyone? And then in the school grounds, in summer, the ground would swarm with cricket teams. And it would be difficult to differentiate between one pitch from the other. And even there, small spats would escalate beyond verbal shouting matches. Stumps and bats could turn into substitute weapons. Testosterone pushing little boys over the edge where they thought they became men. I don't know what happened to those boys, who I think grew up too early. Those boys who saw everything and took it in without questioning, soaking it like a sponge. I wonder where they are now. And then I think about guys like us, who saw all of this and yet saw through it, not seeing a thing. I guess we did just fine. Now again, when I think back of it, being blind is really not as bad as it sounds. I guess that's about it. Thank you. It was a slightly serious poem. I have something which may lighten the mood. So since we are talking about elections, and I wrote this a few days ago. While Karnataka sweats with election fever, I wonder why political parties must play musical chairs. Musical chairs with the administration. Maybe the electorate is forced to choose between one angel or devil and the other. And so the two big guns, we know who they are, alternate every 5 years or a decade. So I keep wondering, why baffle the voters with the problem of choice? Why have them choose between corruption and communalization, between dynasty and dadagiri, between pedigree and pseudoscience? So here's my radical idea. Give voters the best of both at once. So maybe it is time to form a new hybrid political party whose symbol would be a hand holding a lotus. Of course, in Maharashtra, the hand would also have a tattooed tiger. In Kerala or in West Bengal, the hand would also hold a hammer and a sickle. And in Delhi, it might throw away the lotus and pick up the broom. That's it. Thank you.